What you need in the building. So we're going to talk about some overwhelming situations in boxing. If you like this video or you like actually the stream, because it's a stream right now, and you want to comment on it, you can just simply comment on it. Or if you want to donate via Western Union, you can donate via Western Union. Um, if you like, you can share it, etc. You can comment in the comment section, etc. when it's downloaded. Now, let's talk about these overwhelming situations in boxing. Let's, for example, say you end up inside of the ring with somebody who is quicker than you. Got a lot of foot speed, got a lot of hand speed. The first thing you learn in boxing is you got to keep with the fundamentals, okay? So whether you're using your lead hand, if the person's southpaw or orthodox, if you're using your lead hand, whichever lead hand you choose to use, remember one thing, you have to shorten the distance between you and that person. That means you have to get as close to them as possible. And you have to fire shots in a position where you're ready to fire them off, especially if you're slower than them. Shout out to Tommy Temple. What's up, bro? So, for example, the person has quick feet, quick hands. The bell rings. You know this guy's going to be quicker than you. The first thing you need to do is cut down the distance and throw a jab to the body. All right? You're going to change levels, throw a jab to the body. So, no matter what style it is, whether you're a pressure fighter, whatever you are, you may be significantly slower than the guy, but you want to be first. The first thing you want to try and do is be first. When a guy is faster than you have to be able to smother him. The other thing you want to do is make it a little bit more difficult for him. These guys are going to try and control you. They're going to try and occupy you. So if you be first, if you're the first guy to do something and get something done, that is land a punch or throw a punch, it kind of takes away their play. Now they have to react to you. You want them to react to you. See, you want to take the initiative as early as possible in the fight, especially if the guy's more skilled than you, he has better ability than you, he's quicker than you, he's faster than you, right? Quicker and faster. Now, what you'll find with slower fighters, Julio Cesar Chavez, whether it's versus Mildred Taylor, if you're looking at Alfredo Angulo versus Erislandy Lara, you may have to take a lot of punishment. So you have to be pretty tough. But the one thing those guys were able to do that the other guys were not able to do is cut down the ring. So you have to learn the different segments of the ring. If you realize you're slower than this guy, you have to go to them. Because you need to initiate. You have to be the one they are reacting to. You don't want it any other way. Now they are counter punches, so that plays into their hands somewhat. They can set traps for you and stuff. You gotta have a tough chin. You got your high guard, you walk into them. Now the other thing that you have to learn to do, okay, because you have slower feet than them, so you have to cut the ring. Why cutting off the ring is fair is because a quick-footed person, if they don't know how to do certain things, they're gonna actually cover the greater distance because they'll be depending on how much punching power you have. If you not don't have great punching power, you're not the most powerful guy, you're not the most you're not the quickest guy in the world, you got to be the hardest working guy. Your cardio needs to be ridiculous. Okay? You got to be the hardest working guy. You got to be the guy that throws punches. You're still keeping your defense, but you're throwing punches. The key here is be first, be first, be first. Okay? So one of the things you want to do with a faster fighter, a quicker fighter than you in an overwhelming situation, let's say he threw a 4 or 5 punch combination at you, boom, 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 each one landed, okay? Is you have to be able to keep your composure, keep focused, and settle your mind on the hand as to what you're doing. Let's say the guy hits you a 4 or 5 punch combination, okay? And he's off. You can't find him. Okay, you have to now start again going towards him, being first. But the key here is to stay low. You want to try and get as low as possible, get below the guy's punches. All right. If the guy's a tall fighter, it's going to be easier for you. If the guy's a short fighter and he's shorter than you, then you got a problem. You're going to have to really do your squats to get below the hail of fire that this guy's going to be throwing at you. And he can be throwing various things, especially short, compact fighters. They're much more, actually more explosive and quicker than taller, longer fighters. Taller, longer fighters got to throw at a longer distance. A shorter fighter, short, compact punches, and they're really crisp. So it's actually the hardest thing in the world, I would say, as a fighter, would be dealing with somebody who's actually shorter than you because you have to fire down at them and they're coming up at you. And then their punches are going to be short and quick. So they can actually hit you with short chopping shots that could you never seen. And it could stun you, it could knock you out, whatever. So it depends on what kind of opponent you're dealing with, which is why I try to tell people, you have to appreciate what's happening in boxing. But let's break it down a little bit more. So let's say this is a quick fighter, right? It's a quick fighter. It's quicker than you. He's sharp. He's faster than you. The first thing you got to do is be first as much as possible. Stick to your fundamentals, your lead hand, whether it's your jab or your power hand, whichever, whether you're southpaw or orthodox, which one? Your jab or power hand. Get to him. Get to the body. The body is everything. Stay low. If you notice, most pressure fighters, they stay low. If you can bob and weave a little bit, that might help. And slipping punches, particularly. You're not going to see all the punches because the guy's fast. But if you keep your defense relatively tight, what I mean by tight, I don't mean hold your hands tight up to your face like that. I mean, you're keeping it, you're composed, you keep yourself fluid as possible. And what you're trying to do now is you're trying to catch the guy in between his punches. All right, you want to catch the guy in between his punches. You also want to cut him off from going weak side on you, okay, as you're tracking him down. You're not going to be doing as much work moving around the ring as he will be, because more than likely, if you're going to him, then you're pressuring him. You have to play the role of a pressure fighter, which means it's the best way. If you try to let him come to you, he's going to just have a field day with you, okay? So you don't want him. Another thing is you want to constantly keep moving. A lot of guys, they load up too much on their shots. Sometimes it's just to touch the guy, which means you don't have to load up, which means you don't have to put all your full weight into your punches, which means you don't have to plant. So if you know you're going to deal with somebody who's a quick fighter, you want to be boxing on your toes. As much as you may be a flat foot fighter, may have a lot of power, you want to do like Juan Manuel Marquez, you want to do speed drill training. You want to get your speed level up to a certain level. And if you're scientific about it, you might get your speed level up to a little bit better than what you normally have. And you want to stay on your toes. You don't want to really plant. All right? You don't want to be a flat-footed fighter in a fight where you're dealing with a fast guy. So that's another thing. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to cover the distance super fast like the guy, no. But you want enough speed to be able to match him when you're cutting him off. And you're trying to cut off his escape routes, and you want to force him to go a certain direction. Okay? So the best way is to pressure him, stay low, stay behind the jab. Shout out to Apollo, Bruce Lee style. Stay behind the jab, go to the body, and try to be first in every single exchange. The guy's already quicker than you. You need to be first. Now, how do you do that? There's a couple little tricks you can do. So I'm going to throw a couple of tricks up the sleeve. One is you're kind of too slow sometimes to feint. So you want to be able to bob, weave at least, so that if he throws a barrage of punches, he has to get low. He has to dip in to get to the punches to hit you. All right. You want to have your head as close to the guy as possible. You want to head pushing forwards. You're still going to use virtual distance. If you have to, you snap back or you slip to the side. Head off center. All right. Forward. Your head is almost above your foot. The key behind this is if I want to slip sideways or I want to weave or bob underneath, or I want to snap my head back, I can do it. Now I'm just going to be slower than him, so he might catch me with one or two shots, but it will never be clean, flush, and my head's always on the move. And I'm always on the move. Okay? Always keep those feet on the move. Look at Marcos Maidana versus Floyd Mayweather, how Marcos Maidana's feet is constantly moving as he's cutting off Floyd. And that's what you got to do. Now, the faster fighter, as much as he's faster than you, he has to time you as well, which means he's going to have to, if you're moving at a certain rate, he's going to have to slow down himself to move at the rate that you're moving. This is where you can catch his timing. The key here is to get his timing. So when you're dealing with a faster fighter, you want to see when he's coming in, when he's going out. You're paying attention to that behind your head guard. Remember, you're keeping your head at virtual distance. That is to say, you're trying to keep your head forward as much as possible, so that if he throws a punch, you're close. One, you're closer to him, so you can throw punches faster at him, or close a shorter distance to him. And two, the second thing you want to do is if he throws a punch at you, you can slip it and need to snap back from it a bit and parry, okay? So that you can pull yourself back a bit and then you parry away the shot if it's necessary, or block the shot if you're using Philly shell defense, or block it this way with a two guard. So the point is that you want to keep your defense relatively tight. So even though you do get caught with shots, it's not big shots and it's not a whole set of shots you get caught with. He throws a 6-7 punch combination, get hit with 2 or 3, all right? And the other thing is you don't want to be a stationary target. So you want to constantly be moving, could be moving. Watch your Canelo, how he does it as well. Now, he does sometimes get stationary. You don't want to be stationary. Stationary targets are easy targets to hit. So you want to be coming in there. You want to be slipping the punches, okay? Practice your slipping. Slipping is a key in boxing. You want to slip some of his shots. You might get hit with some of his shots, right? You also, because you're slower, but you also want to be able to dip if you need to dip. You must practice squats. You need to get as low as you can. The lower you are, the harder the target you are against opponents, any opponent. Okay, it's the harder the target is. And also, it's easy for you to go into defense. You just cover your upper body with your hands. You can just dip down, cover your upper body with your hands. Okay, so the lower you are, the better. So you want to come in off the jab from low to high. All right, shotgun jabs. Try to work on your explosiveness so you can be explosive when you need to be. And these are just simple keys to deal with a faster guy. It's all about timing. It's all about positioning your body. That's what keeps, as much as a guy might throw 100 million punches or maybe quick, as if your defense is tight because of your positioning, how you position yourself, keeping yourself low, being first as much as possible. You're not going to probably be able to throw a combination on this guy because it's so quick initially. But as you start to hit and get some punches in on the body of the person, they're going to have to slow down and settle down in front of you. And then you can get their timing. You want to keep moving. You want to go to the opponent when you're slower than them. You want to get to them. Look at Mayweather versus Zab Judah. He started walking to Zab from the beginning, started working the body. Zab was way faster than Floyd. And still Floyd was able to beat up Zab in the later rounds because he got to him and landed certain punches. Again, kept the high guard, started walking to him, started landing some body punches, took a couple shots as a result of Zab being faster than him. So when you're dealing with guys in overwhelming situations, you need to keep your composure. You need to be first. You need to go to your opponent in this case, because you have limited skills and they can cover distance much faster than you can. You need to get to them so you can be first. You want to keep your head as close to your opponent as possible. It sounds crazy to keep your head there because it's like your head's going to be the nugget that they're going to hit first, right? But think about it this way. Just like how if you're dealing with a southpaw, you start going to their power hand so that you can get to their hand faster. Even if they're the quicker guy, you can get to their hand faster by being closer to their power hand. And then you can always block, right? And maybe some shots get through your guard, but at the end of the day, you're not taking like a rock and sock and roll, taking punches to give punches. That's the key. You must have some defense. And the way to do that is staying low, which means you have to practice a lot of squats. Also, you're staying on the balls of your feet. You're not going to go in flat-footed, okay? You need to work on speed training. You need to work on conditioning, okay? And those kinds of things is what made guys who should never have been able to catch Amir Khan versus Marcos Maidana, the final rounds. We got so many speedy fighters. Roy Jones Jr. versus Antonio Tarver. I can think of 1,000 speedy spiders that got decked, right? And now, so speed is not everything in boxing, and yes, speed can be neutralized. Oh, the other thing I forgot to tell you, how you can keep your opponents from producing offense. Now, this is a little bit later down the road, but what you can do then is start to occupy your opponent's lead hand. That's later down the road when you slow them down a bit. You start occupying the lead hand, and then you start blinding them. So, if it really helps to be a mid-range or inside fighter in those situations, depending on if the guy's a rangy fighter, whatever the fighter fights at, and they're comfortable at that fighting range, unless they're an inside fighter, which you're cuckoo, so you have to be really good at the inside. But if they are, say, mid-range, most of them are outboxers, so they fight on the outside. But some do fight on mid-range. That's why they're so speedy, right? So let's just say they are outboxers. Then you have to close the distance. You have to fight them either mid-range or you have to fight them on the inside. That's where you're going to do your thing. So you may have to go through some fire, but you can always use your high guard defense. You can mix it up with other defensive techniques, and you can always get below some of their shots. Bob and weave or slip and slide. Slip and slide is the better way. Bob and weave kind of consumes a lot of energy sometimes. But you want to slip and slide, maybe come off a swivel every now and then, which is kind of like a bob and weave, but it's a swivel where you're basically swiveling your body like this, okay? So you might swivel in, or you might just swivel up. You might swivel, to the side a bit, and then realize I can't go in. So you're just gonna dip, or you might slip and slide in. Either way, the key here, and you can look at guys like Andy Ruiz, but he's quick hands, quick feet though. You can find a way to slip to the inside or bob and weave, work your way to the inside, bobbing and weaving. It's a lot more energy that you consume to do that. You get to the inside and then you start digging shots. Now the thing about it is you have to have prepped those combinations before, because guys like slippery and slick on the inside, it's hard to get body shots in on them. It's just hard. Okay. But the key here is you have to work on your craft. Once you get to the inside, you must be able to do something. Otherwise, if they smother you, you have to start all over again. If they, know how to escape, and they know escape routes to deal with you, you're gonna have to start all over again. And it's a little bit of a laborious process when you're dealing with somebody who's quicker and faster than you, because it's kind of hard to keep up with them. But it can be done. And the key here is to be first. Do not hesitate at any point in time when you are going towards them. If you hesitate at all, you will freeze. And when you freeze, it is free target practice. So you cannot hesitate. You have to just go, and you must have practiced these routines. You know what you're going to do if this guy does. You have to be able to practice the routines. You can't think to do those things. And so these are just some of the things that you can do to overcome a guy who's faster than you. Of course, timing is the key. If you're going to make that opponent come to you, you must be a very good counterpuncher, and you must have a very good defense. Okay. And I know fighters who have been able to encourage a fighter to come towards them with their defense. I think of Juan Manuel Marquez, who knocked out Manny Pacquiao, and he made Pacquiao come to him, and then he clocked him. Marcus Maidana versus Floyd Mayweather, etc. So if you're going to do that, just remember, you want to do it later on in the fight, not in the beginning. You don't want to be playing counterpunch with a guy that's much faster than you, that probably can counterpunch a lot faster than you, and probably counterpunch you when you counterpunch him, or miss, and then he makes you pay. So you don't want to really deal with somebody who's quicker than you like that. But it can work. But usually it happens later on. You have to set the foundation. You have to set the trap, elaborate traps, so that when they do spring it, you let them spring it one or two times. You might get hit with a couple shots or whatever, and then you spring your trap. Like what Marcos Maidana did to Floyd. Let me talk about another overwhelming situation. What do you do when you're dealing with somebody who's physically stronger than you in the ring? I may even have more power than you, okay, because of that. Well, all fighters, train for fights. But there are a few fighters who stay ready all the way around. So that from the opening bell to the final bell, so from the opening bell to the final bell, they're really doing it. They're just, their cardio's on point. Apollo says Pernell Whitaker was a defensive fighter and was very, very low. That's right. He stayed in the squat, and he actually boxed going in a circle around the ring. That's very correct. So what I'm saying is, I think the toughest opponents will be always the guys who are shorter than you. You have to keep them on the outside. If you don't keep them, Povetkin was shorter than Dillian White, for example, and he was able to get down low and thread that uppercut straight up the center of Dillian White and knock him out. And Dillian White was doing a great job. He was keeping him behind the jab and all of that. And then, he allowed that one mistake with Povetkin, and Povetkin took advantage of it. But what I was going to say is that when you're dealing with somebody who's stronger than you, and therefore, I guess, a harder puncher than you, you have to now be able to use all the skills of, you can't go strength for strength. You can't go power for power. You can't go strength for strength. I've seen a lot of small guys fighting bigger guys. Remember Carlos Monzon versus Jose Napoles, for example. Jose Napoles was going pound for pound, strength for strength, speed for speed. The guy's smart. Now, how do you do this? Well, usually the bigger, stronger guy, that's his strength, right? It's his size, his strength. Sorry, not his size, but his strength. He's the bigger, stronger guy. As a result, I guess he punches harder as well. All right, usually. I want you guys to look at several fights you can look at. You're going to Pernell Whitaker versus I'm trying to remember what his name was. I think it was Juan Carlos Castillo, something like that. I think it was. You guys gonna help me out with that one. I can always go and look it up. Actually, um, when you fought him at 154, the key to dealing with guys who are bigger and stronger than you has to do with your footwork. Your footwork is the key to everything, and it's not running around the ring like our Amir Khan tried to do against Canelo. Okay, it's not that. So let me see if I can explain it to you in some detail. One is how you angle your body. How you angle your body in space determines if you're going to be hit with flush shots. And even when you bank up against a bigger, stronger guy, there are little tricks. I learned this from martial arts, actually. Little tricks that you can use to still, how do I put it, leverage them somewhat, leverage their strength and their height and size. If you look at Josh Taylor versus um what's his name? I guess you could look at him versus Victor Postol as well. But when you look at him versus Regis Prograis, the big, tall, this is Josh Taylor's a big, tall guy. He still got lower than Regis Prograis and was able to leverage Regis Prograis' weight and size against him. And so be able to pivot around him, bump him back, and push him back. Now, this is a big, taller guy, right? When you looked at Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence was able to dip lower than Mikey Garcia, get below Mikey Garcia, get leverage on him. If you meet a bigger fighter, bigger, stronger fighter that can do all of that, you're in trouble. But for the most part, most bigger, stronger fighters, they're bigger, they're stronger, and they depend on their bigness and their strength and their size, aka Miguel Cotto versus Floyd Mayweather. So what and Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather. So what you have to have is what we call good footwork, and you also have to have good body positioning. On the inside, you must have good body positioning defensively, and also set up to, if the person doesn't align their bodies properly, offensively take advantage of the situation that's on the inside. So a guy who's bigger and stronger than you, how do you disable a guy like that? Well, you have to start off first of all, before you can do anything else, you have to start off offensively again. You have to get to him. And again, the lead hand will be the key to getting to a guy like that. But you want to do it in such a manner that they're not really expecting the lead hand to come at the time when you do fire it. So you may have to end up starting off very defensive, protecting your body. The guy may be coming after you. So you take your time, using your pivot work. You're able to pivot to the weak side of that person or keep to the weak side of that person as much as possible, or push them to their weak side. Because once you can get weak side, you can have a field day with those guys, whereas they can't have a field day with you. That's the whole idea. Hit them and they can't hit you, right? But if they do get you in a corner or to the ropes, you may not have the skills like a Floyd Mayweather. So what you will have to do is you're gonna have to use the high guard shell defense, and you'll have to ride and rock. That is, you lean up against the ropes, come forward, lean up against the ropes, or you go low. You go all the way down and tuck your body in. All right, to protect the head and the body. Either way, any one of those two methods is good. And use your feet afterwards to pivot out of the way, pivot around the person, and then turn them. Either you can go low and then come up and clinch. If they refuse to accept the clinch, you need to pivot around them, or as we say, you can dip under them and then pivot out. So as they're throwing a hook or something, you dip, you roll, I call it roll out. You roll under and out, and then you pivot around them. There's many different ways to do it. It depends on if they're throwing punches or not. But the whole point is you want to get past their first assault on you. And you want to take as least amount of damage as possible. The second thing you want to do is start to control them. But the first thing you got to have is feet. Your feet are your first line of defense in this case. Okay? Your feet. If you don't have good feet, you don't have good conditioning, you don't know how to do pivots, you haven't done your buck steps, simple little things like, throwing a jab, stepping, or just jabbing on the spot, or whatever. You need to know how to do them things and need to do them properly. All your power and everything will come off your feet. Hold on a second. somebody's come. Yeah, so that's the first thing you need to do when you're dealing with somebody who is stronger and more powerful than you. I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit later. Somebody's coming to the house. I have to check and see who it is. I'm gonna catch you guys later on what you need. Peace.